Good morning. I promised you I would do a video, so here's the whole garden, who's really starting to look really nice. So coming from the front yard, I can't believe that this whole area, even 2 years ago, was still all grass. This is quite amazing. This is my pellet strawberries. I initially planted bare root strawberries in this, but they probably got thirsty and then froze, so they all died. I had those two pots that were strawberries in a strawberry in the ground in the front yard, but then they were getting really weeded and getting eaten by stuff, so I removed them from the ground and put them in those two pots, but then they became really crowded like this one, so I started to completely remove the whole thing, and I did well because there was no dirt left, it was just roots. And I separated them and then kept only the biggest one in the pot, and then the smallest one I started to put them back in the pallet. And so far so good. It seems like this year I'm not killing strawberries anymore. But my record for the year is I killed 50 strawberry plants, bare roots. That's terrible. Anyway, so since it's starting to look good, I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing for this guy, because being so crowded like that, they do little tiny fruits that it's not really worth it, and I think they need more space. And so I have all of that empty spot, and then this one I haven't put dirt yet. I was waiting for just to get more strawberry plants, but I think I'm gonna need that spot now with this guy. So my strawberries, I'm really hoping to do another pallet on this side probably next year. So I really want to bank on all of the strawberries. Then my tomatoes are really starting to do really well. I have so many tomatoes on all of them. I really hope this week freeze won't be too hard, because I kind of pulled out all of my covers but this one. And then these guys, I started to put cages around these guys, but they're doing good. So many tomatoes. Then moving on, these are Black Beauty zucchinis. And this, if you remember, I started one zucchini as a winter sowing, so in a plastic tub that I put dirt in it, put a bunch of seeds in it, and just left it outside. And I wanted to do an experiment for people that don't have a greenhouse. Can they start stuff in mini greenhouses just outside? So this is the guy that grew out of that tub. It's doing amazing, and dare I say it's even doing better than the other 3 that I started in the greenhouse. So winter sowing, if you don't have a greenhouse, it's definitely a worse thing to do, to try out. And I used those kind of tub that you can find them in our grocery stores with salad mixes in it. So cheap way to go. Those are yellow zucchinis. I'm starting to have, I don't know if, no, it's not mildew yet. It's probably some sun damage. I was not really overly good at training them with the sun before planting them, but I have been shading them with burlaps before, like for a week after they got planted, so I think they'll be fine. And then I interplanted with salads and leeks and fennel, more salad here, In my tomatoes, I interplanted with beans. They haven't sprouted yet, but I put beans a little bit everywhere and more leeks. And this guy on this side, I try to interplant stuff for gain of space. This guy is covered because there's a lot of grass coming from the front yard and all the way up here, so I decided to just cover this guy to really not have to fight the grass. But then I planted basil on each at the bottom of each. And then last year we had potatoes in that bed and I forgot some, and you can see that some of the potatoes are coming back. They found the holes and they're coming back. So I don't know what I'm gonna do because I cannot really dug under that plastic, so we'll see what we'll do. But yeah, a lot of interplanting with companion planting, but not necessarily, mostly like gain of space. This bed was where I had, so those are the radishes, the leftover radishes that I didn't got to. Some are huge, and the one that I have not bolted yet, that's okay, they probably are woody, but what I'm gonna do is harvest them and roast them, and that's gonna kind of take care of the spiciness and the woodiness pretty well. And there's still so many. And the one that are bolting, I might just leave them and harvest the seeds. But in there was that tatsoi that I harvested all of that, blanched and froze. Behind that there were those bok choy that I harvested. I didn't blanch, but I froze it. Harvested 4.5 pounds of bok choy. That was pretty good. And then behind, still that salad that we still keep on eating. Once all of that, probably this weekend or this coming week, I really will clean that bed. There are potatoes that are starting to sprout over there too. I will harvest those potatoes. They're probably going to be tiny, but they are good for frying. And then I'll put beans and corn in the back. I have some short days corn, so I think it's still gonna be okay. I'll take the chance. Those are dill. I'll remove them. Dill is a weed, and I'll probably freeze it. And then here, that's my garlic patch that I also interplanted with stuff. So those are salad. There are some borage that I will remove and give to the chicken. That's some tatsoi that I seeded late and it bolted, and I might just leave it go to seed and harvest the seeds. And then I put a row of kale there. That's really dense, but I don't care. I'm gonna leave it be and harvest leaves by leaves. We'll see what that goes. And then in the back, potatoes. They are also from last year. This ground is really hard, so it was difficult to harvest potatoes. So we harvested what we could find, but then kind of got lazy and gave up on it. But then all those potatoes are sprouting again. So this year I'm really gonna go at it and probably harvest that. And I don't know what I'll plant here, but I need a space for more Swiss chard. So I'm kind of thinking I'm going to put something like that here. Swiss chard, a row maybe of turnip or beets. And I'm not in a rush. Swiss chard can go now. The turnip I'm probably going to wait a little longer for a fall harvest. But I did Swiss chard back in March in that pot. It worked kind of so-so, but I want to leave it to see if I can just put it in a greenhouse in fall, because Swiss chard doesn't really bolt or anything. And then maybe I can have very late Swiss chard in the greenhouse, so we'll leave it there. And the wind is picking up. I have more tomatoes here because, you never have enough tomatoes. This one is a dwarf variety. It's called Mini Bell from Baker Creek, and it's time to put tomatoes. And so I haven't pruned this guy. I pruned the other ones. I'm trying pruning this year, but this guy I'm leaving to be bushed, and it probably will be better in pots. And those are two leftovers that I didn't room anywhere in the garden, so I'm just gonna leave them in the pots. And well, they're doing good. They're putting up tomatoes, so that's pretty cool. This is mint, Moroccan mint that my mint, mint is invasive. So every year I have to kind of dig the mint that's being invasive too much out of where I want it. So I just put it in pots. It's doing amazing. I just dug that out like a month ago. Here we have a really nice bed of a lot of stuff. One row of kale that, if you remember very early on, I had a salad mix in a pot, and that kale comes from that pot, and I use that pot now for something else, but that kale was still in it and it was not looking too bad, so I literally plucked it out and put it there. And I was not really expecting it to survive, but it did, and I'm glad it did because it's beautiful and it's gorgeous. So I'm gonna start harvesting it. I haven't harvested any of it yet, so but then we have cauliflowers, and then in the middle of the cauliflowers I put celeriac, celery root. And celery root becomes a huge root that's used in coleslaw. That's really good, but you can also harvest the leaves. The leaves taste like celery. And then leeks, I put leeks. So I put a row of celeriac, 2 rows of leeks, and then 2 rows of cauliflowers. It's doing good. It's really dense. It's pretty cool. Then here I have a bunch of pots, zinnias. Zinnias are supposedly really easy to grow, but this one was full with zinnias and they all died. But I think I didn't choose the mix right. It has too much peat moss and it dried, and peat moss is really difficult to rehydrate, so it died. So I just reseeded it with purple zinnias, but we'll see. I'm really putting more emphasis on flowers this year, and this is not my forte. So my strawberry towers are doing amazing. We've been eating strawberries every other day. My son is all over it, and the birds are all over it, so that's why I put those cages there. But yeah, they're doing beautiful. Those are Albion from Roxy's greenhouse, and those are, I don't remember the name of it, but they are colored blossom. They are pink and red, and I bought them at Steven's greenhouse. So I really recommend it. It's a very prolific producer, yet it's beautiful blossoms. It's really beautiful when it's all in flower. But I really love the Albions because the Albions makes huge fruits. So it's good to have one of each. Some basils, lemon basil, genovese, and then purple. And cilantro. And then here we have 2 tubs with flowers on one side and cucumbers. And because we have that fence to separate the backyard from the garden, I'm taking advantage of that and growing cucumbers. So this is, I'll just step out for a minute here to show you my brand new raised beds. We're in the process of replacing our fence. So Cliff is taking the wood and building me raised beds. So happy, yoo-hoo! And we put that so that, because the fence rails were not completely straight, so we put that so that the dirt won't escape. And I just planted that last night. Cucumbers, they're doing so great. And so those were planted 2 weeks before these guys, so you see it's not so much a good idea to rush stuff in. And then those are cucamelons. They are sour gherkins. They become tiny. It looks like a mini watermelon, and apparently it tastes like a cucumber. I've never grown them, so I'm really happy they're doing well. I'm gonna try. And so everything's gonna go on the fence. And then I have plenty of space for flowers here, so I'll do that. I'll go buy them. I won't start from seed, probably not. In front of the greenhouse, I got myself some blackberries from Roxy's greenhouse. They're doing great. That's the pot I had the salad mix in. That's why the salad mix went. I needed a pot for better purposes. I still have my haskap that I need to plant. The fence is being delayed and all, so that's why I still haven't planted them, because they're gonna go in the backyard along the fence. But they've started producing little fruit. Sorry. It fell. It tastes like a little sour blueberry, but it tastes good. It's a little tart blueberry, but it really tastes good, and it's really strong. I mean, it's the perfect bush for our climate, because it really stands really cold temperatures. These are snap peas I started in the greenhouse on March 22nd, and look how huge they are. I mean, I had to add some stakes to it because it was bending. I mean, I have a tomato cage on it, but it went way beyond that. And yesterday I realized that we're starting to have snap peas. Yeah, snap peas. Middle of June, not bad. It's worth it. It's not gonna be a lot, but it's worth it. More flowers I need to plant. My time still doing good. Here in pots, same thing. Here the grass is kind of invading all along, so I'm favoring pots along it so I can put the weed barriers under it. I hate weeding, so I'm lazy. This is marjoram, this is thyme, and this is sage that are starting to bloom. And I let things bloom because it's beautiful and it favors the bees. This is my spinach and salad bed that are really starting to bolt. I harvested a lot of spinach. We've been eating from that bed for a long time. But same thing, I'm gonna let things bolt. And I'm still harvesting leaves off of it. The spinach becomes a little more bitter, but it's fine, especially when you cook it. I want to harvest the seeds, so I'm letting it be, and then the bees love it. This is mustard from the salad mix, and yeah, it's beautiful. It's really putting a nice little touch of color early on in the garden, so I'm really happy with it. And again, you can still harvest the leaves, doesn't matter. So I'm gonna let it be. I might clear up a patch here and maybe put beans, depending on how my other bed goes, but I might not. Who knows? I interpolated with onions, and then somewhere in there are some perpetual spinach, which is actually a type of Swiss chard, but it's kind of being run over. But the leaves are a little thicker, and they taste a little more earthy, if that makes sense, than normal spinach, but it won't bolt like spinach does, so it's worth it. And then on the other side I have a bunch of stuff. Like, it's really a bed, kind of an experimental bed that I put stuff and let it fight and whatever. But there's a row of kohlrabi in the middle, which is really doing awesome. It's starting to produce the ball that we'll be able to eat. And then you can eat the kohlrabi leaves. I might come and start harvesting the bottom leaves and try to stir fry it. You can absolutely stir fry the leaves that, if you buy a kohlrabi head and it still has a bunch of leaves on top, you can eat those. even raw if they are young enough, but some are really starting to come along. So happy. This bed is advanced because it was covered. As you can see, I have the hoops on top and it was recovered. There are some volunteer red orac. I have not planted them, they just came up. Some carrots, some dill. What else? I had a bunch of carrots that didn't sprout. I'm terrible with carrots. I'm not patient enough. But I put celeriac, I put leeks. Then I put turnips. And then I put Swiss chard and then beets. And yeah, and I'm letting all of that little world fight for space, whatever. I mean, I don't care if the bulbs might grow, and when they grow, especially when there are 3 or 4 of them, they just push themselves outward. And so if I see that one bulb is getting really big and it needs the space around it, I might just pick out the little plants around it to give it space, but maybe not. I don't know. I don't care. I don't mind harvesting just the leaves. This one is kind of weird shaped. And then that's dill that I need to harvest before it bolts. I don't want my dill to bolts this year because I have dill everywhere. So there's probably enough seeds in the dirt for years to come. This is a whole bed of red orac. I love red orac. It's so beautiful, and it's so it reseeded itself. That bed though I seeded. I actually gathered all of the red orac from the rest of the yard. Obviously I missed some, and then put all of the seeds here because I wanted it focused. But it survives. It can take frost. It's spinach basically, and it's actually healthier than spinach because it contains less oxalic acid in it, which oxalic acid is the same thing that you have in rhubarb leaves, and that's why we don't eat the rhubarb leaves, although rhubarb leaves have a way higher concentration of it, which is why you definitely don't eat it. Compared to spinach, you do eat it, but it's better to cook spinach for that reason. But red orac is a type of spinach that tastes a little more salty. It's really interesting for a taste, but it contains way less acid, so it's actually a healthier spinach. Also called sometimes mountain spinach, rocky mountain spinach. In French it's called arroche. And then a kohlrabi that I just put there because I didn't know where else to put. And then in the middle I have a celeriac that I didn't harvested last year that came back. Pretty amazed by it. And then I have green orac in there. Mustard, red or giant Russian or giant, I don't know, mustard that I put there, something like the kale over there. It was from my salad mix in my pot, and I plucked it out because it looked good enough to throw away. So I just put it there, and it became, I put 4, but some others are kind of fighting the rhubarb. I will harvest those guys and give these more space, but oh, they are so beautiful. And it really tastes like mustard, like French mustard. The maille, the one I eat. It's beautiful. I'm just really just happy because it's gorgeous. Look at that. Look at this one. This one is the most gorgeous. So beautiful, purple, green, gorgeous. I put a little artichoke there. It's not growing, seems like, but it's not dying either, so whatever. More dill, more orac. You can't get rid of these guys, but that's okay. It's edible, so whatever. I have 1 row of onion here, walking onions, and my peas. And this is the favorite path in my garden right now because Everything's so lush. You have the huge rhubarb on one side. You have the mint that start to really take its more than its place. I don't care if my mint invades. I harvest a lot of mint and I dry it and then I drink it all winter long with just I have a little baggie that you can put dry tea in it, so you can make your own little tea bags. 2 cubes of sugar, boiling water, a bag of mint, and I'm so happy all winter long. So I do need a lot of mint to be able to drink that all winter long, so I'm fine if it invades, and whenever it invades I take the shovel and just shovel it out. And then either give it to friends or put it in pots or whatever. But peppermint, mojito mint, and Moroccan mint. And Moroccan mint is the best for tea, and peppermint is the best for iced tea. And mojito is the best for, like its name, mojito. Although I don't drink mojito, but I like having it. It's fun. Peas, snap peas on this side. Sugaran that are not doing as well as the others. I don't know why. Sugaran and purple peas. And those purple peas, that's the first time I grow them. And the fun part with that is they produce a huge amount of tendrils that you can eat. It's really good. It actually tastes like peas. Really tastes like peas. And especially when they're young and they're not woody. But they don't become woody as fast as the other snap peas. So, are very good. And then the bottom is covered with dill, which I'm leaving because it doesn't bother me yet, and it seems like it doesn't bother the peas. I'm gonna harvest it, and also it protects the ground from weeds and stuff, and it keeps the ground moist. I really like it's kind of a cover crop. And so I just removed the weeds that are in it. I have a ton of lamb's ear, right? Is it lamb's ear? So that's that. Let's see, let's go through. My favorite way to go through the back of the garden here because it's so lush. And then here it's our squash pad. Let's see. Pumpkins, Connecticut field, so big typical American pumpkins. My parsley that overwintered, so happy with that. I love parsley. Thyme and parsley are my favorite herbs ever. And then I put a row of corn right there. Let's see, that box is in the middle. Right there. Put a row of corn, hasn't sprouted yet. I put corns in the middle of the pumpkin too. And then let's go that way. I put the spaghetti squash there. That's where they were last year and they're doing fine. And then I put more corn along the fence here. And this area is kind of a troubled area with the grass coming from outside of the fence, which that fence will eventually be pushed to the sidewalk, and I'm going to put a row of bushes there. But on this side of the arch I have gourds. So those are loofah gourds. So loofah is a gourd you can dry and then use as a sponge. So first time I grow it. And then I had a hard time sprouting my squash this year, but one birdhouse gourd. So same thing, a gourd you can dry and use as a birdhouse because it's really hard shelled. And then in that hot mess I had a asparagus bed, which I was never able to find the asparagus because the grass was so big, so we tilled it all. Well, the asparagus survived, but I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. I actually asked Cliff to maybe build a raised bed there once the fence is out, and then grow asparagus in a raised bed so it's out of the grass way, because you cannot really just till. It's difficult to weed an asparagus bed, And so we've been eating 2-3 asparagus this year, and that was the first time because I seriously could never find them before they bolted. So it has advantage. On this side of the arch we have melons, cantaloupe, and we ate 2 melons last year. They were tiny, and it actually survived the hail last year, so they had the time to ripen, and they were so good. They were so tiny and so good. That really motivate me to try harder. So I'm trying again, and in the back they are watermelon. Same thing, I'm choosing the plants from Baker Creek, starting from seed, because they are hardier. So I'm convinced that given the right condition I can grow melons and watermelons successfully in Dillon. I see. Famous last words. And then here it's a hot mess of flowers. So I have borage that keeps on coming everywhere. My bee balm that wintered, if you've seen an earlier post, kind of died back. I'm not sure, I don't know how to deal with that, but I started some new ones from seed, so I put it there. And I might have to try harder with bee balm and covering it and protecting it so that it survives and not die back. I don't know. If you have any ideas, let me know. But then here I have chamomile that I bought the plant. I tried to seed some, but this bed is such a hot mess, and I'm so busy I can't really keep track of stuff, of everything. So I just bought 2 from Roxy's, planted them, and then Cosmos. I had Cosmos here last year, so it's self-seeded and mixed with borage, and I don't know, I probably will favor the Cosmos, so once those become too big I might remove it and give it to the chicken. We'll see. Some onions that I just forgot about last year, so they are growing back, which is fine. I'm gonna harvest these heads and put it somewhere else next year. And then here more Cosmos and borage. I want this front to be a huge flower stuff, and I think that's gonna help with the squash and help the bees and be beautiful and help with my mood and all. And my ladies, my old ladies, and over there in the tractor my young ladies, and I'm putting them next to each other so they can see one another, but I'm having a hard time merging the 2 groups. So I need to pay more attention to this. Right here in front of the greenhouse, same thing, I want all of that to be flowers, so I put borage there a couple of years ago, and it has been just reseeded itself on its own. So this is not borage. I need to remove that guy. I don't know what it is. Or maybe I'll leave it to see what it is, and then I don't know. But borage, I want this whole bed to become chive, so I put one that I had in pot, that survived in a pot all winter long, so I put it there. But then in the meantime I put more onions, and so the onions are eventually gonna be harvested, and hopefully that, because borage and chives are both invasive, they can fight, and I want a huge patch of chive. And then here I've tried seeding stuff, but something I don't have time to stay on top of everything, so I do favor vegetables more than flowers. So this seed probably didn't have enough water to sprout. Some are. I think those are poppies. And but I bought 2 pots from Allen Landscape, 1 pot of echinacea and 1 pot of black-eyed Susan, I think. So I'll just put them there. But yeah, I want this to be flowers. On this side we circled back on this side of the middle bed, I have more garlic from Kurt, doing great. Look, Kurt, your garlic is doing amazing. I kind of interplanted with a yedicule, which is a salad from Baker Creek. And here was my bed of arugula. I harvested most of it. I kept some because I love to just put fresh arugula on pizza. And I'm gonna make a pesto with all of that. And I still haven't done that, but I need to get on it. And those kohlrabi I attached so that they wouldn't take too much space. But look at that one, so beautiful. I'm thinking in a week I'm not gonna wait any longer and I'm just gonna harvest a kohlrabi. I'm impatient. I bought blueberry from Roxy's greenhouse, and it's gonna go into the pot that snap peas are. So once those are gone, I'll put that blueberry in it. And that's it for this part of the yard, of the garden. It's beautiful. It's really becoming beautiful. And I'm not paying too much attention to beauty when I plant things. Let's face it, I try to design every winter. I'm designing my yard over and over again, and I never stick to it. But beauty kind of makes itself. I mean, it really doesn't take much, for me at least, to be beautiful. I think this is gorgeous. It's becoming gorgeous. And if the weather doesn't, if we don't have another hailstorm in the middle of summer, it will become amazing by August, I'm sure. And so I don't pay attention too much to beauty when I plant, and it's just gonna come on its own. My greenhouse is pretty empty now. I have your nasturtium in pots. I don't know where to put my nasturtium, so whenever I don't know where to put stuff, I just put it in pots. But this year in the greenhouse, I'm gonna leave my peppers in the greenhouse. Last year I put them in the yard, in the garden, and they never did anything because it got cold and it got yucky all summer. There was no sun. And pepper really need heat, especially at night. It cannot freeze, otherwise it's gonna, they won't grow anymore. And so this year I decided to just do my peppers inside. And they're doing great. So far so good. This is a banana pepper it's already producing flowers. And this one is another banana pepper. This one is called King of the North, which is a red bell pepper. This one is a nardello, which is kind of a hot pepper, but it's mild. I don't do really hot pepper, but this one I don't remember. We'll see. Another nardello, the King of the North. More basil. The last of the squash I need to plant, these are patty pans, yellow scallops. I don't know where I'm gonna put them. And then another banana, a golden California. Golden California are yellow bell pepper, and they are doing so much poorer, if that's a way to say it, than the others. I mean, I always have a hard time not having it yellow. I don't keep on feeding it, but I feed it, then I don't feed it. I water it, then I don't water it, and it seems like nothing makes it. I don't think I'm gonna do them again. I think I'm gonna focus on what works. So, and then those teeny tiny are my experiment to grow tomatoes during the winter. Those are teeny toms, and they are from Baker Creek, and they are not supposed to grow any more than really that much. And but they are super prolific, and so far so good. I'm really happy with it. It took forever for them to germinate, and it took forever for them to get to that size. So I think if I want some for the winter, I will have to start them like in August. But I'm planning to get some of them. I'm probably gonna harvest a fruit and get those seeds because they are fairly expensive seeds. And then I want them in the house. I'm gonna grow them in the house. Instead of having flowers in the house, I might as well have something I can eat. But so cool. And this guy is the last survivor of my last winter experiment. And I need to add more water. But that was a hydroponic system. But I'm not gonna do that anymore. And that company bankrupt, unfortunately. But it's been alive since Christmas. And it's producing tomatoes. I used to have 5 of them. And one by one they died. And I used to have, like, that's one of them. I just put there, it died. And then I had peppers, but they died too. But still impressive. My son absolutely loves coming to it and just eating off of it. And he calls that pumats. That's cute. Here's another mini bell, which is another dwarf from Baker Creek. So basically, this guy and those two were my winter experiments. This was not supposed to become that tall, so I don't know what happened there, but if it doesn't become taller than that, it could also be another good contestant for being in the house during the winter. It's definitely prolific. So, and I ate one yesterday and it was really good. And I ate one